Давайте.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very glad to be with you today, and I'm really glad that you have joined our webinar. And today we are going to talk about the formation and development of critical thinking of primary school pupils. Thanks a lot for your question that you have sent to us before the webinar. This gave me the opportunity to prepare the presentation, and I hope that you will find some helpful tips for your work in school. To tell the truth, I don't like theory a lot, but we need it. So before we come up to the practical exercises, I would like to present some piece of information about theory. So, what is critical thinking? First of all, this is the ability to think clearly and rationally. This is the ability to understand logical connection between the ideas, the ability to collect and analyze the information, the ability to find the solution to the problem, and the ability to make right decisions. Of course, you can say that all these things are really difficult for primary learners, but I'm sure that there are some small, simple steps that we can make towards the formation and development of critical thinking in primary school. I think it is really important. Because when our pupils come to the secondary school, it will be easier for them and for us to study our difficult and so very necessary school subject as foreign language. Is it possible to develop critical thinking in primary school? It is not my opinion, but it is internationally accepted point of view of thinking. First of all, we need to encourage our children to do some simple things. Children are really curious and they enjoy exploring and asking questions. So in my opinion, and not only in my opinion, it is really necessary and important to not to lose this ability to explore and ask questions. Then our children enjoy testing their theories. They ask questions, they try doing something to see if it is right, if it works or not. It's also interesting. Sometimes it can cause some problems and even troubles, but anyway, it is really important. So we need to encourage our children to analyze the results of their work. And of course, to think about possible changes, to give some hints to our pupils so that they could understand how they can improve their abilities, the situation in general. Critical thinking involves understanding and analysis of the links between ideas, evaluation of the ideas and arguments, and synthesis of the information and ideas. So, all this seems to be very difficult, complicated, but I'm sure you will agree with me that all this information is not so frightening for us. What skills, what abilities primary pupils need to have to develop critical thinking? So, for understanding and analysis of the links between the ideas, our pupils need to be able to sort and classify objects and knowledge according to the types. And later you will see some exercises to develop this ability. The second ability is to identify the characters, place, plot, and the theme of the story. Then the ability to compare different types of information. They need to be able to explain the causes and consequences of the events and make prediction and evaluation of information received. Well, I can understand, I do realize that it is not an easy task to develop critical thinking in primary school because of the lack of vocabulary, because our pupils cannot produce long, complicated, and grammatically correct sentences. But anyway, there are some simple steps that you can use to teach your pupils and to develop their critical thinking. So the second slide shows what abilities do our pupils need to develop evaluation of the ideas and documents. First of all, they need to explain the correctness or falsity of information and justify the choice. You can guess that exercises like true, false are very helpful in this case, and they are quite possible for primary pupils. Next, the ability to identify discrepancies in stories. Then describe problems in the situations that arise in stories and to choose the type of activity and explain the choice. So, to be ready for synthesis of the information and the ideas, our pupils need to solve simple tasks and puzzles. They enjoy different riddles and puzzles, so I think this is not the problem at all. Our pupils need to identify possible clauses of problems described in the text and compare different information and thoughts on the same topic. So all this seems to be maybe complicated, maybe right now not. But while preparing for the webinar, I tried to choose and show you some simple exercises which can help you in your work. They are interesting, they are helpful, and they do not take a lot of efforts to prepare them. So the first activity which can be used to develop critical thinking at the lessons is the classification of the words. The idea is the following. While studying some topic, you choose the set of words on the topic and you mix these words with the words from other topics. You can prepare the set of the words from 2 topics or even more, from 3 topics. You can choose the way of exercising according to your wish and according to your needs. For example, you can say the words in the class and your pupils will divide these words into 2 groups or 3 groups orally. For example, while studying the topic my school, we can choose words to name school objects and school subjects. For example, math, pen, calculator, ball, paints, art, and you tell your pupils these words in mixture and they need to classify them. You can use cards with pictures, you can use cards with words, you can write these words on the board and you can divide your pupils into 2 teams or 3 teams and they will write these words according to some topic on the board or in your exercise books. I think this activity is not new for you and you use it, but perhaps you didn't realize that it can develop critical thinking, because this is a kind of simple analysis of the information. The second type of exercising is mind quiz. This is not a new idea also, because you need just pictures for this kind of activity. You prepare pictures with many objects of different types. You can use your textbooks with pictures like that. For example, when I see a really good picture which is suitable for this activity, I tell my pupils to look attentively at this picture for some time, for 30 seconds, for 40 seconds, or even for 1 minute. Then you offer your pupils to close the books, and you ask questions of different kinds, maybe even unexpected questions. For example, you can ask them, how many objects are there in the picture? Can you remember? What color are the objects? For example, what color is the bag? What color is the plane? How many toys can you see? Or how many toys are there in the picture? Where are they? What object is red? What object is blue? And so on. Pupils usually enjoy it, and next time when you offer them to look attentively into the picture for some time, they will understand that they need to concentrate their attention, and after that they will have some kind of a quiz. And you can divide your pupils into teams and make this activity even more interesting. The second kind of games is what am I, as I name this type of games for my pupils. It is not a new thing, and I'm sure you know it. For example, you tell your pupils the definitions, and they need to guess what it is. You can also use any way to play this game as you wish and as you need. You may write the definitions in the pieces of paper and offer your pupils to read them and to guess the objects. In this way, you will practice not only critical thinking, but also reading and other kinds of abilities. You can train your pupils in listening and tell the definitions or read them out, and your pupils will guess what object is described. For example, this is a thing that you need to write in your exercise book. What is it? And they will guess this is a pen. Pupils enjoy this kind of activity. And finally, you know the exercises like odd one out, so find the odd word. But this type of exercising can be very tricky. For example, while preparing for one of my lessons, I chose sets of birds, and when I was showing the pictures, I realized that they were tricky for my pupils. For example, one set of the pictures was a strawberry, a banana, a cherry, and a tomato. When I showed these pictures, I asked my pupils which one is odd. Most of them told that it was a tomato because, and then they need to analyze the information and to make some conclusions, because tomato is a vegetable. But some of my pupils said that a banana was the odd word. When I asked them why, they said because the three objects are red and a banana is yellow. So in this way, we encourage our pupils to think critically, to analyze the information and to make some conclusions. The second row of the words was like that: a cow, a horse, a rabbit, and a bear. Which word is odd in this row? I think you can guess that this is a bear, because a cow, a horse, and a rabbit are domestic animals, and a bear is a wild animal. And again, my pupils surprised me, because some of them said that a rabbit is an odd word, because a cow, a horse, and a bear are big and a rabbit is small. So they classify these pictures according to the size. And one more example of such an activity is the set of the words jeans, trainers, a dress, and a t-shirt. Which word is odd in this row? You can say that it is this word is trainers, because trainers are necessary to wear on our feet, and jeans, dress, and a t-shirt are clothes. But some of my pupils said that a dress was an odd word, because boys can wear jeans, trainers, and t-shirts, and boys cannot wear a dress. And in this way, my pupils were, of course, right. So you can use these types of activities. They are not difficult to prepare, and you will find them really interesting. And your pupils will enjoy them too. The next kind of activity is asking questions. Of course, primary pupils do not have big vocabulary, so they are limited in choosing words, and they are limited in choosing grammar structures. But anyway, you can ask simple things. For example, what is your idea about this picture? Or what is your idea about a boy and a girl? What do you think is happening in this picture? What can we or what can you do about it if we are discussing some problem? And of course, creative tasks and work in groups will help to practice critical thinking, to develop, because pupils need to communicate with each other, and they need to analyze information and to make some decisions, to make choice. It is not an easy thing, but anyway it works. You just need some time and a lot of patience. And project works are really helpful too. In the same way, they develop creativity of children, but at the same time, critical thinking is developed too, because the same idea is the pupils need to collect information for their projects. They need to analyze this information, to choose the most important and to present it. While working at projects, our pupils need to exchange their ideas, and this helps to practice their communication. Now I would like to show you some exercises for developing critical thinking, which are in the textbooks Start Up for the 2nd and the 3rd year learners. So, here is the example, not even one example, of exercises for developing critical thinking, which are taken from the textbook Start Up for the 3rd year learners. Have a look at exercise 4. You can see two pictures, and your children, your pupils, need to use these types of information to compare it. So they need to make up sentences describing different classrooms. And this is, of course, a good training for developing critical thinking, because they need to analyze information. And I'm sure that your pupils are able to make up sentences, because this is the topic from their textbooks and they need to learn to speak on this topic. So it's quite possible. Of course, you can use exercise 3 and exercise 4 to work together. For example, your pupils need to read exercise 3. this is the description of the classroom, and then you can offer your pupils to compare the description of the classroom from exercise 3 and the pictures from exercise 4. In this way, you also practice their critical thinking, because pupils need to compare different types of information. Exercise 4 is the example of the project here, 4A. Exercise 4A. This is the example of the project work when the pupils need to imagine the classroom of their dream. They need to choose the information which is suitable for them, which is desirable for them. They need to use their imagination as well. After that, they need to prepare some pictures, posters, descriptions, and describe the classroom of their dream. I think this exercise is not really very difficult for your pupils, and it will be helpful. Well, the next exercise shown on the slide is number 2. First of all, there are descriptions of different animals, so pupils need to read them and to choose the description for each picture. This is also a kind of analysis. You can also use exercise 3 later then to train your pupils to talk about different kinds of animals, to compare them, so they need to analyze the information too. Well, this exercise offers pupils to read descriptions of different school subjects. So they need to read different pieces of information, and they need to make links between pictures, the description, and the school subjects. And it will help your pupils to learn to analyze information and to select, to sort it out, and to make the right choice. The same type of exercise is number 1. You can see it. This exercise is taken from the Start Up textbook for the 3rd year learners. They are studying different professions, and they need to read the descriptions and to match the descriptions to the pictures. So in this way, pupils also learn to analyze information. Exercise 1 is the example of the text. So it is not really a good idea just to read the text. Of course not. We have to teach our pupils to understand the text, to find the correct information. And the exercises which help to make them right choice, yes or no exercises, help us, teachers, to check if our pupils understand the text in correct way. But I think it is not enough. It is not enough just to read the sentences and to say if the information is correct or incorrect. You can offer your pupils find the right sentence from the text to prove their point of view. This exercise is really good because while teaching our pupils to find correct information to support their idea, we teach them and we will have benefits in secondary school, because you know there are texts where in the secondary school our pupils need to read them to identify if the information is correct or not correct, and these kinds of exercises can be very tricky. In this case, I always ask my pupils to find the justification from the text and it's easier for them in the secondary school to deal with such exercises, with such tasks. And of course, this can be a type of preparation for future exams. So pupils are aware of the type of this exercise, and they know how to deal with it, and it's not a problem for them. So you can see that some simple things can help us, teachers, and our pupils to develop their abilities. Speaking about different puzzles and riddles, here is the example, exercise 4. This page is taken from the textbook Start Up for the second year learners, and you can use this exercise in different way. First of all, before offering your children to read and solve the riddle, you can use the picture to play so-called mind squeeze, as I have already mentioned. So you offer pupils to look very carefully at the picture for 30 seconds, then close their books, and you can ask questions. How many toys can you remember? How many toys are there in the picture? What color are they? What color is the spade, for example? What color is the train? Where is a teddy bear? Where is the kite? And I'm sure your pupils will answer these questions because they are not really difficult for them. After that, you read the text, and your pupils read the text, and they need to answer questions. They read this text in short abstracts, and each abstract has got a question. At the end, your pupils need to guess what toy has Billy got and where is it. I think this exercise will be interesting for pupils. This page shows you another type of a riddle. It is taken from the textbook Start Up for the third year learners, and exercise 5 is a good example. Pupils need to tell about children in the photos, and they need to tell their personal information. But it is not very easy to speak about the children's age, because first of all, pupils need to make some calculations. I think this task is not very ordinary, and it will be enjoyable for pupils. I think they will do it happily. Exercise 2 in this slide show the example of the exercise which can teach pupils to solve simple tasks and make decisions. This exercise is from the textbook Start Up for the second year learners. Now children have got some money and they want to buy some food, but they need to count their money carefully to choose the food so that they have enough money. You can offer your pupils solve such kinds of tasks. I think they will be and enjoyable and helpful. Now I'd like to talk a little about storytelling. You have already heard about this method of exercising, and I'm sure you use this method in your work, but how can it be helpful for developing critical thinking? First of all, this method helps us to develop the skills of prediction the text, because before listening, before working with acting out of stories, you can offer your pupils to look at the pictures, and here you can ask different kinds of questions to help them identify the characters, the place, the plot, and the theme of the story. So you can ask, what can you see in the pictures? Where are the pupils? How many are there? What can they talk about? Look at the pictures. How do the children feel? Are they happy or are they sad? What do you think? Why are the children happy? Why are they sad? What is the problem? How can you act in this situation? What can we do in this situation? Of course, it is not an easy thing to make your pupils speak, but I'm sure they will enjoy this activity. After that, your pupils listen to the story, repeat, and then they act it out, and it is the most interesting part of work, I suppose. It is a bit noisy, and sometimes such active exercises make some problems, but I strongly believe that it is necessary to do such exercises because they teach our pupils not only act out in correct way, but also they teach our pupils some discipline and some ways to communicate with each other in a polite way. So storytelling is a really good idea for developing critical thinking. Another example of storytelling exercise, also you can use this exercise for prediction, for creating maybe your own stories, for discussing in the class. You can ask different questions, not only the questions that are shown in the slide, because we have different pupils and situations are quite different, you know, and the same lesson can be different in different classrooms. So once again, storytelling helps us to teach our pupils, identify the characters, place, plot, and the theme of the story. It also helps to make predictions and evaluations of the information received. It helps to describe the possible consequences of the actions of the characters in the stories, and your pupils are happy to exchange their opinions. And act out this story. Acting out is really fun. Speaking about project works, as I have already mentioned, this kind of activity is also very helpful because it doesn't only help to develop creativity of the children. I think the children enjoy these types of activities because they can do something themselves. They can choose some ideas, they can discuss, they can produce these ideas and to see the result. They are happy to share the results and they can evaluate what is good, what is bad, why is the result, if the result is satisfying or if it is not. So I think this is a really good source for imagination and for communication as well. So project works help our pupils to select the information, to analyze the information, to try their theories, to see the result, and also to discuss the ways of improvement the result. This is really very important. They can see what is good, what is bad, which project is better, and what it is really important to teach pupils to understand what they can do to improve their work. Here you can see another example of the project work. It is taken from the textbook Start Up for the second year learners. So, as I have already mentioned, children usually have fun. I hope that you use these kinds of work in school, and it would be interesting for me if you share your ideas and if you tell or write in the chat what exercises you find really helpful in your work for creating the atmosphere, for developing critical thinking in primary school. And I think that these activities will be helpful, and the information that you have heard today will be helpful too. Please, now it's time for your questions. If you have questions, you can write them in the chat. I cannot see any questions right now. If you have them, please take your time. And I would be very grateful if you could write your impressions of the webinar, and if you write some ideas for the following webinars. Maybe you have got some questions. You're welcome to write them in the chat. Okay, I cannot see any questions right now. So if I cannot see any questions, I hope that the information was very clear, and I have answered all the questions that you sent us before. So thank you for being with us. Still you have the opportunity to write your questions, to share your impressions, and to share your ideas about the webinar. Thanks again for being with us. I wish you good luck in your difficult but so important and necessary work. Goodbye.